Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar event, The Future of NIL, from the perspective of a CEO, a professor, and an athletic director. We're so excited to have our discussion today with you all with these great panelists. And, to talk about NIL, it's a great topic. It's new, it's interesting, it's exciting, and it's gonna change a lot in the next few months. It already has. So this is going to be a great discussion for us today. I'm very thankful to have all of you on here with us. So I would like to start with some housekeeping items, if that's all right. We're all familiar with webinar platforms as of right now, but if you're not familiar with this one specifically, you have the chat to the right, which feel free to use that throughout the presentation to ask questions, to make comments, to make friends in the chat, whatever it is, we want you to feel free to participate as much as possible. With that being said, I do want to ask everyone to chime in, let us know where you're from, what you do for a living, and anything that you want to let us know. We'll be looking out for those soon. Okay, there we go. Garrett, first one to be here. Excited to be here. Awesome. Tani from NMSU. Faculty, this will be recorded. Yes, great question. We will be recording this and we will be sending it in an email afterwards to everyone. So thank you for asking that. Let's see. So today's a little agenda for you guys. Today, we will basically be having a discussion on the topic of the future of NIL. And we're going to just roll for about an hour talking about this, asking questions, getting questions from you as well in the chat, and just seeing where we go. We have a few questions lined up, but for the most part, we'll be talking NIL all day today, which I'm sure everyone's excited about. So let's see. Without further ado, we got everyone pretty much used to the chat here, which is good. Feel free to use it, like I said, throughout. And I do want to take a moment to have everyone here on the panel introduce themselves, if that's all right. We will start here with Stu, our lovely CEO of Stukent. So if you don't mind, Stu, go ahead and introduce yourself. Then Maribeth will have you, and then Kevin will finish with you.
Hey guys, I'm Stuart Draper. I'm the founder and CEO of Stukent. We're an ed tech company based in Idaho Falls, Idaho, with employees all over. And I'm also the co-author of Digital Marketing Essentials and have a rich background in digital marketing.
Awesome. I am Maribeth Kuzmeski. I'm a professor at Oklahoma State. I teach personal branding, name, image, and likeness. I also have an organization on campus called the Brand Squad, where we help student athletes with their name, image, and likeness. And I also have a company called Red Zone Marketing that I run. I'm a professor of practice, so I also have a business outside of the university.
Hi guys, my name is Kevin Clintworth. I'm a senior associate athletic director at Oklahoma State. Work on our internal NIL panel, I guess you would call it. Through a friend of a friend, I was recommended to Dr. K. Across a couple of parking lots at the Spear School of Business and got her and dragged her into the NIL world for us to our benefit.
Awesome. Thank you all for being here again. And I guess I will introduce myself. I forgot to do that. My name is Chad Gray, and I am a product marketing manager here at Stukent. If you've been on a webinar before with us, you are likely to have seen me. I host quite a few webinars for us, and I'm happy to be here. This is going to be a good discussion. So let's get right into it. I wanted to start with Stu, if that's all right. Stu, would you mind just telling us what the mission of Stukent is and how that compares to what's happening in NIL?
Yeah, so Stukent, for those unfamiliar, education technology company. We do courseware and simulations that mostly business schools use to teach their students. And we teamed up actually with Dr. K there at Oklahoma State on a services marketing simulation and courseware. She did phenomenal, and over chips and salsa one day while she was visiting in town, she said, Oklahoma State's asked me to help create courseware for NIL and to help with compliance and things like that. And I said, wow, that's exciting. I'm really interested in this space. if you aren't living under a rock, you obviously are aware of this stuff. So one thing that I noticed with NIL was that it was very similar to where I was with digital marketing in 2013. Digital marketing was taught only by about 50% of business schools. Google had already been around for 10 years, and business schools were finally getting around to teaching digital marketing to their students. And I saw NIL as this new, really uncharted territory. And I thought, wow, I think there's a lot of ways that Stukent could help there. Our mission at Stukent: help educators, help students, help the world. And there's a lot of Wild West stuff going on right now, just like there was in digital marketing when we got our start helping academics with that area. So excited to talk more about that today.
Awesome. And let's switch it over to Maribeth, if that's all right. So Maribeth, you obviously have worked with Stukent on a couple products, and obviously with NIL as well. You have a courseware. So how did that all start? How did that come, and why were you excited to create this courseware with Stukent?
Well, I that's a great question, but I think you should actually start with Kevin, because if you ask Kevin why he decided to create, because he's the one who came to me asking me to do this course. So let's start with Kevin answering the question, why did you want NIL personal branding? And then I can talk about what I did after his genius.
Okay, well, back in the good old days of NIL, which was last summer, when everything was quaint and everybody was happy with NIL, or at least the idea of the theory behind NIL, the school of thought was that student athletes were going to be earning their way kind of with their own wits and skills. And I knew that Oklahoma State had the first place in the country in which you could get a master's in entrepreneurship. I don't know if it's the only one still, but I know it was the first place. So it didn't take a lot of figuring to think, this is a great opportunity, because NIL was going to be all about entrepreneurship, we thought. And so I called a friend of mine at the Spears School of Business, said, this is what I'm thinking. We need a resource person, someone we could talk to, maybe a guest speaker on occasion, just somebody that we could bounce things off of. He said, I think I've got somebody. He came back just a few minutes later, said he talked to Maribeth Kuzmeski. And then her and I had our first conversation, which was the first time I think that she had probably interacted with anyone in athletics. And I don't want to say condescending, but I was basically teaching her athletics 101 at the beginning, saying, this is how we've always been. This is where we're going. This is why there's culture shock, blah, blah, blah. In the course of that first conversation, I learned that she had a Division I hockey player as a son, and that she had a nephew who plays Big Ten football, and was totally up on the college athletics lingo and how the world worked. And from that point on, things went really, really fast, really, really well. We got her into the building. She spoke to some teams, some coach. I know she went to at least one or two head coaches sessions. And the idea originally was to basically have her as just a resource. And then, Maribeth, I can't really remember when we started talking about a class.
It was really towards the beginning. And I then went to the dean and said, can I start this class? The athletic department said that this is a good class. And so I took that ball and ran with it. And that's when we started the actual class. And then subsequently, we actually started a class in legal and personal finance also through the business school. I don't teach those, but those are other classes that we started based on, what you and I had talked about, Kevin.
Awesome. And so one thing I wanted to ask maybe both Kevin and Maribeth is, why NIL? Where did you see the value in having this at OSU?
Well, in athletics, obviously, we're like everyone else. We knew this would be a recruiting issue if you weren't really all in on NIL. And I think there's one kind of school of thought out there that administrators are fighting NIL. NIL, the way it's defined, I don't know of anybody who was against it. Everybody was all in on NIL and the student athletes being able to make name with their name and image and likeness like everyone else in the world. What it has become, which I saw one athletic director call it a talent acquisition fee or recruiting element, that's where people are having a hard time with it. But NIL itself, I think we were all in. And I talked with Chad Weiberg, who is our athletic director, who was in year 1 on the job. He started on July 1, the same day NIL went to effect. And we had decided a long time ago that Oklahoma State would be all in. And we knew that the Spear School of Business would be a really good partner. I mean, they're just 2 parking lots away from us. We're right here on the same side of campus. So we were never going to hesitate about being all in on NIL. And we saw the Spear School as a way to just basically be better at it.
Awesome. Maribeth, did you have anything to add on why NIL? Why did you want to teach this, or why did you think it was
Well, from
important?
my own personal experiences, I knew that, having a college, he missed the whole NIL deal. He graduated a year early, but he graduated, which was good. But he missed out on this. But I thought to myself, you know what? If that was him, and he was asked to be a student and an athlete, and now to do this NIL stuff, I just knew he wouldn't have the skill sets to be able to do that. And I know a lot of the student athletes. I teach a lot of student athletes in a larger class that I teach called the Principles of Marketing. And I thought, there's no way that they're going to know what to do and how to do it. And so number 1 was to start a class that would teach them. And it wouldn't be a class where we would go through the theory. It'd be a class where they would dig into their own personal brand, develop their own merchandise, develop their own logo, figure out how to do all these things, a communication schedule, what to do on social media, how to get more engagement, and all of those kinds of things. And then that led to more realization about what they could and couldn't do, and what we needed to do to help them to really be successful. Because, at Oklahoma State, just like any other university, if people are on here from lots of different universities, and Kevin said it, it's all about recruiting. The coaches are being asked, hey, what's happening with NIL at your school? Okay, so we've got to be able to say we're doing all of these things, and we really have this down where we are not only helping our student athletes, but we're helping them to do some things that are really meaningful.
Yeah,
That's
I think
awesome.
Maribeth brings up a great point when she says these students, they're even signed up for marketing class, and they just don't know. On one hand, you're right, they don't know, but there are things they already do know, right? They're on social media, they're seeing influencers on social media. They may not be an influencer themselves on social media. They may not be the top tier D1 5-star recruit that already has 100,000 followers or 1 million followers or however many, and they may not be an influencer yet, but they obviously would still like to know how to go and do well with their name, image, and likeness, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into my next question, which is for you, Stu, is basically Stukent is all about giving students hands-on skills, right? And so you touched on it a little bit early on, but going back to the beginning of Stukent with digital marketing essentials and some of our cornerstone products, how does that really compare to what's happening in the NIL space and with education for NIL?
Good question. I'm going to screen share to help me in explaining this.
Sure.
So we provide simulations at Stukent. Mimic NIL is a new simulation we provide. We have a simulation on social media marketing, and that simulation gives instructors the chance to give their students the ability to practice negotiating with influencers, asking influencers to help sell their products online. And we found that negotiating experience is one that's really powerful for teaching college student athletes how to practice making a relationship with a business, right, that might want to sponsor them or do deals with them of other sorts. So we created this NIL experience that teaches a lot of different principles. And then at Stukent, we were already doing other things that can help student athletes. Besides name, image, and likeness, social media marketing, content marketing, personal branding, we have this entire suite of products that business schools can use. Not just business schools. We can also provide online learning if your university doesn't already have stuff in catalog. By the way, if you already have courses in catalog at your university for student athletes to sign up for related to NIL, love to hear about them in the chat and look forward to more conversation around that. And by the way, fun thing today for those here with us, if you go to this higher ed bundle page, I'll share a link and you schedule a demo during the call. We got a $15 Amazon gift card for you for taking time to schedule a demo and check out this suite of tools that we have available. But as I return back here and stop my screen share, just want you to know that there's resources, and Stukent's background is, our slogan is stay current, and our background is helping academia catch up with the digital marketing industry that they were teaching, they're teaching marketing students outdated stuff. NIL is changing fast, and we are going to help universities stay current and teach their students what's coming. Compliance rules have already been updated by the NCAA just recently, and working
we have
with
a compliance certification. Yeah,
and so we have the certification available with this bundle as well. So there in the chat, you can see a link for that. Love to answer questions that folks have, and like I said, we've got $15 Amazon gift card for you if you just register today for a demo.
So I see David has a question in here that I'd love to answer. So he says many local businesses who can't afford to sponsor the big five-star recruits are eager to support other types of students, but they frequently don't know what to do, right? And so I know this to be true because I mentioned I started this club called the Brand Squad, and we're out there trying to help our student athletes. And a lot of our student athletes are not super five-star athletes, but they're also playing on teams like, tennis and different teams that aren't these high-profile sports. And so how do we help them get deals? So yesterday I was asked to speak at a luncheon of local businesses in Stillwater. And the question that I got in the very beginning was, well, we don't know what to do. And I said, well, I can tell you what to do. I can help you with what to do. But they weren't sure because, for years and years, small businesses in Stillwater would reach out to the athletic department and say, hey, can you have a student athlete come and make an appearance at the local school or wherever it is? And the answer was yes, and it didn't cost anything. And now it's a whole different story. And so what businesses have done, especially small businesses, is nothing. And so we're telling them, hey, listen, if you want to sponsor an athlete, it might be $200, or $50. It doesn't have to be like this big $10,000, $100,000 deal, or certainly anything bigger than that. But it's just, if you want to bring a student athlete to your car dealership to sign autographs on a Saturday, you can do that. And it's not very expensive to do some of those things, but it's in great support of our student athletes. And it's in great support of the student athletes for, as Kevin mentioned, recruiting. We can say we have success in NIL. Now, no, it's not the same as some of the other craziness that some people have been posting in the chat, but it's pure. It's, listen, the student athlete is going to do something for that remuneration that they're going to get, whether it's to do a post or, do an autograph signing or whatever it might be. So it's an interesting time because I think that some of the bigger schools, maybe even in the SEC, did things immediately. And that's just not how in a small town in Stillwater that we've done it. But we will be extremely successful at doing it once we start to get the word out more. Now, we've been successful already. I think Kevin posted in the chat that 35% of the athletes have some kind of an NIL deal. I would imagine that would be up to 50% by next year. This is all new. And as the student athletes go through their in-season time, once our softball team wins at regionals today and does some other things, I mean, those student athletes are going to be in prime demand, those softball players. So we've got we'll see as it comes to over a year from now, how some of those successes have played out.
Great. We did get a few questions in the chat, and I think this will be a good time to answer some of those. It seems like everyone has started asking questions. So if we don't mind, let's just go through a few of these questions real quick. a lot of them are related to the courseware, which is good because we do want to talk about that. So let's see. Does the bundle include state-by-state laws, which are currently a big impact on NIL deals? So that came from David. Maribeth, do you want to take that one?
Can you read that one again? I'm trying to find it in the chat.
Yeah. Does the courseware bundle, include state-by-state laws?
Oh, no, it doesn't include state-by-state laws, but that's a really good point because one of the things, because we could do that and maybe in the future we will do that. As things change, we'll be on top of all of that stuff. Right now, it's sort of more of a national guidance as opposed to state by state. But there's a firm that we're talking to right now that has all of that guidance down, and we might partner with them to be able to make sure that we've got the updated stuff in every compliance certification. And when it changes, so state law passes, then we can go back and say, hey, the state law passed in your state, because we'll know who you are of taking those certifications, and we can get that updated. So I think that's the next iteration, and it'll probably come pretty quick.
I would note too that I saw early in the chat some of our guests come to us with law backgrounds. If you have interest in discussing helping us with the law side of courseware, definitely open to a conversation around that. And then if it's a university-wide adoption where you want all of your student athletes to go through the program, we can definitely tailor a section for your needs. So for your state specifics.
So I want to address a question about Open Doors. So Open Doors is a platform. What we're talking about, mine is Kevin, but what we're talking about is courseware taught at accredited universities. So this is like a textbook, and all of the resources that you would need to teach this piloted at Oklahoma State. So that's the difference. We don't do all of the things that Open Doors does, or Influencer, or any of those kinds of companies. That's not our purpose. Is educational, period. And again, educational from the perspective of written by an academic for academics to teach in their schools. And I saw also in the chat that if you're not an academic, could you get a demo? And the answer is yes. And we've had someone just recently sign up for the entire program and pay a fee, but they're not in a classroom situation. So they were a consultant. So you can definitely do that as well.
Yeah, I think Kevin's point earlier around going to the business school from the athletic department is wise. The idea, like when I think about the future of NIL, there's going to be a need to get information and proof of competency to every single student athlete in the university. And Kevin, maybe you want to speak a little more to that and your aim for that, how you guys are trying to go about that.
Well, and I think part of it was I have one of my closer friends on campus is the director of marketing communications for the Spear School. They just opened a new building 2 years ago now, maybe, or about something
4
like
years
that.
ago.
It's really nice. 4 years ago. I've been in and out of the building a lot. It's been a lot of time over there, maybe more than I would have normally, and certainly more than I have at other campus stops that I've made. So I already kind of was familiar with the business school more so than I might have normally been. But it just seemed like when you started looking at the check marks of what a true student athlete would have to do on their own to be successful, it was all sort of a self-contained unit being taught at the Spear School. And it's just really a matter of unifying basically the resources that we already had. We are in a small town of about 50,000, but we are a state university and the largest university in the state. And so we're sort of with NIL, we started off with a pebble, like throwing a pebble in the lake and watching the little waves get a little bigger as we go. We're starting to see more momentum, I think, even now this month when campus is mostly empty because of graduations already taking place. We're starting to see more and more NIL deals starting to take place now. And that's sort of been our mentality from the beginning, was to kind of start slow and work our way out into it. The branded squad, which we barely touched on, has been a big help for us. And that was something that us in athletics had nothing to do with. And Dr. K can talk about that whenever she feels the need. But that's served a big purpose for us as well. I think engaging our student athletes who maybe were pessimistic about whether or not NIL was really something that would work for them. I think there's a lot of that. Like there's a lot of money out there, but none of it's going to ever make its way to me. And I think the brand squad has helped with that a lot.
Well, yeah, as a note to that, we went the brand squad, and so the brand squad is a group of students, top marketing students and sports management students who we developed a club. We partner them with student athletes to help them with their name, image, and likeness. So they get together, they meet, they talk about goals, they talk about cleaning up their social media, they talk about what's your communication plan moving forward. They develop a logo for them, they put a media kit together. They help them with pitches because some of these students are already getting requests of different kinds. And so we help them take a look at that and figure out what the responses should be and things like that. But for instance, with the brand squad, I went with a couple of our brand squad members to the soccer team. And we were in their locker room talking to them about the brand squad and what we could do for them. And we had really no soccer players that were in the brand squad because of exactly what Kevin said. They thought, well, this isn't really for me. This isn't really for me. We're like, this is absolutely for you. And we have opportunities, that you could take advantage of. And it might not be that you're going to make a whole bunch of money. There's no promises. It's just that if you want to be out there and work on your personal brand and do some of this, we can help you with it. And oh, by the way, you can probably monetize it, which is great. And so within a few minutes, we had 8 student athletes from the soccer team that signed up, and we've got twice as many now. So that's what happened when we just got in front of them and talked about, hey, you may not think it's you, but it is you. It can be you. It's not just the football team.
Yeah, and I would say, just to wrap that up real quick, Chad, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, go for it.
If NIL had been activated a year earlier, when we had a basketball player named Cade Cunningham here, who ended up being the number 1 overall pick, our philosophy on NIL at Oklahoma State might have been a lot different, because he's somebody who would have come in with a big name already. He was projected to go number 1 before he ever got here. But we haven't had a high profile kid like that in this school year. Even though we've had a lot of success, we haven't had that sort of person who arrived on campus as a household name. And so our answer to coaches who were asking us questions about NIL for recruiting purposes was simply to have tools in place for the student athletes to be successful by being involved in NIL as much as they possibly wanted. It's never been a case of Oklahoma State going out and making deals. And to use NIL and recruiting for us, we don't have deals waiting for recruits when they get here. We simply reference the success that some of our student athletes have had with NIL who are already here and involved in some of the programs that we have.
It's somewhat the opposite of what you hear from some of these high profile things, where it's the opposite of what we're doing at Oklahoma State in the, just the opposite.
Yeah. And I love the perspective that all of us have towards NIL, where the idea is to get every student, athlete and student involved in it, not just the high profile players, but, the shortstop for the softball team, or, the track star or the track 400 meter racer, whatever it is, everyone can take advantage of NIL and learn about it, which I love about this topic.
2 years ago, we were in the Women's World Series. We've been in the last couple, but and one of our pitchers actually worked for our SID in media relations. And, just to show you, just as you guys know how the world works, I mean, she didn't really try to develop any kind of following, and she gained 5,000 by pitching 2 innings in the World Series that year. She wasn't a high profile player. I think one of our games started at 9:30 at night, the one that she pitched in maybe. So there's a place for everyone, like you said. And that's really what the brand squad has been about. And I think the brand squad does something else for us. When we're at the upper levels of administration and athletic department, unless you make a real effort to interact with the student athletes, you become like a high school principal. The kids who are in trouble and the ones who are really, really good. And then everybody in the middle sort of gets left out if you're not careful. And I think the peer-to-peer communication that the brand squad provides for the student athletes has been kind of an unforeseen benefit for that for us. We hear about things from the brand squad that we didn't really know our kids were thinking.
Yeah, it really is to help those
Yeah.
middle students that aren't maybe, no one's really reaching out to them. And we just help them get their social media set up and just help them with their communication strategies and help them think of, maybe opportunities that they may want to reach out to. And they do that. And so it's been a really, really neat thing. The best thing that I've seen from an educator standpoint is that the course that I teach on NIL personal branding and the brand squad, I have never seen so many passionate students. Like I teach, all sorts of marketing and other classes, and students are, interested and engaged. But these students, I mean, once you get them working on their own stuff or helping a student athlete in the case of the brand squad, helping them get their personal brand set up, it's all about them. Mm-hmm. And they are totally passionate about it. And it is really, really, really exciting for me as an educator to see students so engaged because, we went through COVID and we had a lot of disengagement, and now we have the opposite.
Well, that's one thing that's so exciting for me about this as a courseware provider and simulation provider, an ed tech company that's got a mission to help educators, help students, help the world, is these students they're feeling something different than they get from a lot of the rest of their education. They turn on the TV, Sports Center, and boom, NIL is what's being talked about. Like the stuff that they are learning and practicing and trying to figure out is stuff that's being talked about on Sports Center when they turn it on at night. And it just brings everything to life. And all of a sudden, a course that could teach some social media marketing principles for business purposes is something that can be applied to what those students are living and dealing with now. And it's so much more real to life.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, this has been awesome. And I want to touch on the brand squad more, but there is a separate webinar for that you can check out and get all the details for there. And if we have time, we can talk about it even more later. But one thing I really want to ask, and this will be a question for Kevin and Maribeth, I think, is, how I lost my train of thought. Like, as an athletic director, where do you see the value in bringing the brand squad to your school, and where do you see that, like, bringing this NIL program to your school, and why has that been important to you? Or no, I'm sorry, I remember. Sorry guys, bear with me. I'm
you have a better
it's
question.
Hard to host. There's a lot of things going on. What I wanted to ask was, how can someone in your position as a professor or an athletic director do what you guys did? How did that come to be?
Well, I can answer that because you need a Kevin Clintworth is what you need, because he's the one who said, he gave me the idea to teach the class. I came to him with, what do you think about this weird idea of doing like a marketing club, but it's called the Brand Squad, and we've just helped student athletes. And I was real nervous when I asked him. It was over lunch, and he's like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. I'm like, done. So, but I needed to have I needed to be able to work with the athletic department and the dean of the business school to get all these things done. And it's all good, but you've got to have the support from more than one. It can't just be me coming up with these, crazy ideas. It's got to be led from the athletic department, supported by the business school. In our
Yeah, I would say that anybody who's in athletics, who's on the chat, knows that we're getting solicited daily for people providing NIL services. It's nonstop. Everybody's got something that's going to help you organize it, monitor it, keep an eye on it, reinvent it. Our NIL program, we kept hearing all along how far ahead we were ahead of the game, and we're like, no, we're not. We don't know what we're doing, and we really didn't know what we were doing. We didn't set out to make this our program. It just evolved into that. And it started, again, my friend Terry at the business school, and I called him and said, this is what we think we need. There's got to be somebody over there, because I knew about the entrepreneurship program, and it was really walking, crawling, and then walking a little bit. I wouldn't even say we're running yet. I would still say that we're, like you guys said, it's changing all the time. It's changing every week. Now you're starting to see maybe we overcorrected on the compensation side, and now you're starting to see some pushback from other people. And we've just tried to be able to look ourselves in the eye every day. And I'm not going to lie to you. We've had conversations in our executive staff meetings where we look each other in the eye and say, can you believe what we're talking about here? And it was all about how much should we be involved in getting money into people's hands, that whereas, everything in our being told us that's not what we're supposed to do. So we really didn't know what we were doing when we started. I would just say we just put one step in front of the other, and we always didn't get it right, but we went to the right person in Dr. K, and that's helped us dramatically.
I think it's really wise to go to professors. I think the struggle for a lot of schools is left arm doesn't know what right arm's doing in large institutions. But the way you guys teamed up should be used as a model. I think it's brilliant. I wonder what those are, what other approaches other universities are taking that may be willing to chat in and share. I'd love to hear. I think that a lot of schools are going to find themselves scrambling as things continue to get out of hand, as we're seeing right now with $800,000 to one student athlete. It's just mind-blowing, right, to hear something like that. And that's not going to be the only story. There's more coming for sure. But where I just lost Chad, you're contagious. I lost my train of thought. Here's what I was going to add to that. I think that it's hard for universities as well, not just because of the right arm, left arm example, but also because of catalog. They get in this stuck position of, well, for this year's catalog, because we're an accredited university, we can't change what courses we're offering. And so they know they should be teaching the students these things, but they have a hard time figuring out how to get it as an official class where students can get college credit. All 4 of the products I showed you guys earlier facilitate a full 3-credit course if you want it to. It's enough content for all of that. But it can also be done as an online learning experience, and it doesn't have to be associated with college credit. And Maribeth has already said, hey, if there are students that want to go through, I'm happy to do an online course. So there's options and ways that we can make this available to non-students.
So there's Margie has a question. Any traction with collegiate esports programs? So at Oklahoma State, we have an esports club, but I have not had any contact with that, but it would work the same exact way. I mean, they should be able to do the same exact things. It's super popular. It just hasn't been something that we've done at Oklahoma State, but it would work the same exact way. Another question, Garrett says, are athletes picking up how to get NIL deals quickly, or is this a challenge for them? I mean, here's the deal. I think our best student athletes and our most committed student athletes are not necessarily thinking first about how to get NIL deals. It's just not what they're doing. They're thinking about how to be really good at what they're doing, athletics and school wise, but it's not easy. And that's why when they get an opportunity to be able to have someone help them kind of look at it, and this doesn't look good, or this does look good, or, we at the brand squad, we teach a whole bunch on contracting, not that we're legal experts and we don't provide any advice, but we tell them for what to look for, and also who they can get guidance from that is not, brand squad students when it relates to some of those contracts, because we've seen some contracts that are no good, absolutely no good, because people will take advantage. Just like Kevin said, there's NIL businesses coming out of the woodwork. There's also all of these people trying to take advantage of student athletes, and we have to protect them as well.
That's a real problem, especially since they can have representation. And you've got people who have never represented anyone in their life who are signing kids as basically an NIL agent and no compete. They're taking shares of deals they didn't even set up at all, which is unheard of. So that's a legitimate issue that happened here really early in the process. I think some of that is kind of falling apart as kids are starting to realize it, but still, I think for a few of them, it was a little bit of a expensive lesson.
Yeah. Craig says, what about athlete students. I like the way you say that. We call them student athletes at Oklahoma State. What about athlete students overvaluing themselves because the top athletes are getting larger amounts? We haven't seen that issue. I don't think that, our basketball team, one student athlete got a really big deal really early. And it wasn't like everybody else was just looking out to get those really big deals. They recognized this guy got this deal, and there's evaluation. But there's also, you got to be able to read the market. And one of the reasons we have the simulation inside of the courseware is so that they can test out how to respond to some of these things. If somebody says, "Here's what I'll pay you," like, I'm not worth that. Well, what do you respond? How do you make a response to that? And so we guide our student athletes in some of that from the brand squad standpoint, not from the athletic department.
Awesome. With that being said, Maribeth, do you have any, or anyone, do you have any success stories from student athletes who have gone through the program or the brand squad and the courseware and have had a successful outcome?
We've had a lot of successful outcomes, but one of the things that's happening right now is there's the PGA tournament in Tulsa, Oklahoma, going on right now. And we've had the PGA has actually signed several of our student athletes to appear at the PGA tournament. So that's kind of cool. And that's something that's just local and something that happened because we're in Oklahoma and that tournament's in Tulsa. And so those kinds of things are really great. Our golf team, I think, has had some successes with different kinds of autograph signings and things like that. But one of our biggest successes actually has been just merch deals where we create or they create a logo or we create a logo for them from the brand squad. And I say we, I don't mean me, I mean the students. And then they sell their T-shirt that they created or whatever it is. And there's been all sorts of sales on that. And that's, they're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they're making 1,000. And those are pretty cool deals for us at Oklahoma State. So.
Awesome. Let's see. We just had a couple comments in the chat.
I would, Maribeth, with those golf student athletes, my guess is they're not the folks that have really large social media followings, but they're still able to earn money with their name, image, and likeness, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And it's not the top players in any sport or the high profile student athletes, but they came and they asked us, and we said, hey, we hear some great student athletes who'd love to do that, and we're close enough to get to Tulsa in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the golf thing's a little different here than any place I've been. These guys they're going to be on tour soon, and they'll be successful soon. This is sort of the mecca of college golf. And we have 5 guys playing at the PGA right now. And so the agent thing gets interesting with the golfers because they've got people who are interested in representing them long term, which is also an NIL no-no. It's not supposed to happen. I don't know how you enforce that. I don't know how you're going to enforce that on the back end, but this thing with the PGA Championship was a little bit of a natural thing for this school just because of the history here on the golf side, especially on the men's side.
And some of the student athletes going there from the PGA are not our golfers. They're other students. So that's pretty cool. We have a few other questions here. How does the brand squad relate to the university? Yeah, so this is something that we really had to work with the athletic department on because we are not an extension of the athletic department. I'm not employed by the athletic department. It's a student club on campus that is, filled with students who are going out and they're not compensated at all. Although we kind of wish that they were. Maybe we can get some internships going or some scholarships or something because they're working a lot. But the athletic department knows what we're doing, but they're not guiding us, and we are not getting deals on behalf of the athletic department or something like that. So I'm assuming that's where you're going with that question. But it's just a student-run club as part of the university. How many members of the brand squad? We've got 60 members of the brand squad right now. We are going to need to have more. So starting in the fall, we're going to start really doing some recruiting of our top marketing and sports management students and even sports media students, so that we can be fully set up, because we know we've already had, it's over the summer and we're already getting student athletes asking to be a part of the brand squad. We make the student athletes opt in, and we have an interview process for the brand squad members, and then we pair them up. So it's not just we're working with any student athlete, we're working with the ones that have asked for help, and they have to fill out a form and tell us what they're interested in. So we will need a lot more students in the brand squad.
Guys, let me answer one question that just came in
Sure.
about international athletes. We've had some of the golfers, I don't know about tennis players, maybe track athletes who are international students who have made money on NIL, but they've only done that when they've been at home, when they're in their native countries where their NIL deals have been in effect.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, one of our top golfers is international, and he's participated in some things with the brand squad, but he doesn't get paid, at all to do that. He doesn't do any agreements, and he's very conscious about making sure that there's no gray line, that he is not because he doesn't want to do anything. He's going to go probably play in the PGA, and he doesn't want anything to happen to him right now in his golf career in college. But it is a very clear line between what you can do and what you can't do. And right now they can't do much at all unless they're standing on ground in their home country.
Awesome. Yeah, so I just provided a couple links as well in the chat to the brand squad. It kind of goes into more depth and detail. And we can answer more questions obviously on that, because it's a great club and program that Maribeth runs, and students get a ton of experience with all of this. So, but I just wanted to let everyone know that those are those two links.
I wish when I was in college, I had that opportunity, and that's guided so much of what we're doing at Stukent. Man, I wish I would have been able to do that when I was in school. Well, let's go make that available to future students.
Yeah.
Those club members are really impressive. They take roll. They have homework. They've got deadlines. It's not like any club that I was in college. I can tell you that. Been to only one meeting, and it was an information sharing on what you could and couldn't do, but came out of there thinking I just didn't know how they had time to do everything that they did.
Yeah. Great. So let's see. Has there been any topics that have come up while we've been talking that any of you would like to make mention of, or that you think would be important to talk about with this audience here?
Oh, I would love to ask Kevin a question, if you don't mind, Chad, that came to me.
Sure.
Kevin, what do you think's going to change, evolve with the compliance rules? If you could say, I'm guessing NCAA is going to change this or that, what do you foresee in the near future that way?
Well, when I saw the name of this was the future of NIL, my first question was, why am I here? Because I can't tell you what's going to happen. I do think that in some regards, I feel like that there are some people, higher ups around different campuses around the country, because that's what the NCAA is, that are sort of itching for a little bit of a fight themselves, because name, image, and likeness, everyone was for, but this wasn't. I mean, the old rules that have been in place since the 40s or 50s, let's say, about booster involvement in recruiting, those didn't go away. Nobody ever said, all the outs in free. That was never a part of it. And so I think that even though they may get whipped again in court, the NCAA's got a pretty bad, they're like the Washington Generals of the courtroom, and they lose every time, right? I do think that you will see some future lawsuits, and I think in a way they sort of welcome that. I don't know. That's just a gut feel that they realize that there's going to be challenges to it, but they want answers. So I think that's the main thing that to get to, is that they just want everything to be defined so we know what we're playing in. I've never heard, there's always been chatter in the media about an NCAA, the breaking away and the different divisions breaking away, or a different organization. I've never heard that more prominent than I do now. It's almost mainstream conversation at this point, that whether it be the FBS level, I saw one athletic director who said, let's govern college football under the college football playoff, set their own rules. So I do think there'll be some big changes because of people I think everyone just wants to know the answers. They want to know what the rules are and what can we enforce or what can we not enforce. If that means the NCAA that we have to go out and get sued again and lose, well, at least we know what we're dealing with. So I think right now it's the fear of the unknown that has everybody on edge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting.
That's why we're having these conversations.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to know what's
Stephen
going on.
had asked a question about contracts. And my guess is that one way the NCAA could help clear up a lot of messes would be by having some boilerplate standardized contracts that the students have to use when they make deals, rather than allowing the business to come to the student, which I'm guessing is what happens more than often. Student is given a contract by a business. They don't know, they don't have an attorney sign away, I want the money, and I'll do your 5 posts, your 10 posts, and wear your t-shirt, whatever it may be, right?
Well, every contract is different, because it could be that they're doing the
terms are different, right? Yeah.
They're doing a clinic in the summer, or they're doing a post on social media, or they're attending an autograph signing, or they're signing, some footballs, or they're participating with a charity event. There's just so many different things that require kind of different levels of contracts for each of these things. The thing that I think is really interesting, though, is the perpetuity of how long businesses want to hold on to this name, image, and likeness agreement with the student athlete. And that's the one that I always, we're always like, you can't have their name, image, and likeness in perpetuity. So unless you're really paying a lot for it. Garrett says, I know most athletes were excited when NIL was first announced. What would you say the excitement level and drive to get NIL deals is? I would say that it's more exciting now for our student athletes, because when it first started, there were some that were all in and some that were super skeptical, like we talked about before. And then, with the impetus of this becoming a little bit more mainstream, in a year, if something can become mainstream, it's a little bit more mainstream. We've got the Brand Squad. The Brand Squad does a podcast, and this podcast is getting tons of downloads. And a lot of student athletes are listening to other student athletes going, wait a minute, I want to do this. And so there's more excitement that's happening around this, especially at Oklahoma State. Could be happening at other universities too. But I think it's not that they're giving up. It's the opposite, because they're finding that they can get, $50, $100, $1,000, and it's something that's right there if they put their mind to it.
Awesome. Let's see. Maribeth, will you tell us the name of the podcast that you have?
Well, it's called the Brand Squad Podcast. We actually have I know, very exciting, right? We have a Instagram page. Brand Squad Podcast is at Brand Squad Podcast is the Instagram. So you can take a look at that. And you can also go to brandsquad-osu.com, go to our website. And there we've got all of the podcasts that you can listen to, download. They're pretty cool. And we just found out yesterday that we're actually getting a sponsor of the podcast. So that is awesome.
That's great. So cool. It seems like some of the questions in the chat are somewhat slowing down, but I just wanted to remind everyone that, we still have a few more minutes, so please feel free to ask any questions. One question that I kind of wanted to somewhat wrap up with was, I wanted to get each of your perspectives on, the future of NIL. What do you think it looks like from each of your perspectives? As a professor, as an athletic director, as a CEO, as a courseware provider, where do you see this going? Are you optimistic? Are you a little bit hesitant? What are you anxious about? What are you excited about? And I'll just let anyone who's ready go ahead.
I'm excited to see it normalize. I think of all the things that I mean, it's exciting to get to see NIL as a headline most every single morning right now. But I'm also excited for the day when it's just normal that student athletes are able to win big with their name, image, and likeness and offset the costs of going to college. I'm a parent of a 15-year-old baseball player, and I laugh at the idea that somehow a full ride scholarship would be a moneymaker. When I look at all the costs for travel baseball, there's no way I'm winning by making my son a D1 baseball player, right? So, but I love the idea of my son, if he does make it big and gets to go D1 in baseball, that he has the chance to go and earn off his name, image, and likeness and gain that business experience young of negotiating a contract. Even if he doesn't go pro, right? There's so much value in that. So I'm excited to see it normalize, I think. And I think it will. There's a lot to figure out, a lot of name calling right now, and people that are frustrated, but this works itself out over time, and I'm excited to see that. Excited to be a part of helping those students learn as well. So, obviously.
Yeah.
A year ago, we said on July 1 that we were excited to see where it would be at the end of year one. I would say there was a reason the NCAA rule book was as thick as it was. Everybody used to always make fun of it, that it was this thick and, well, you don't need all these rules. Well, it turns out, there was some reason for the rule book. I'm looking forward to I agree that I would like for it to be normalized, but I would like for there to be some commonality throughout the country so that we are all dealing with the same thing. We talked a lot about state laws, and this state can allow you to do this, and this state allows you to do that. In Oklahoma, we passed an NIL law, but we never implemented it. It's still been out there, so we really are untethered. We can do anything we want as far as the 4 Division I schools in this state as a way to not hem ourselves in. But you just have so many different rules and regulations and governances that are involved with what's going on that nobody. I think everyone's afraid. Well, not everyone's afraid to be too bold, but I think the smart people are a little afraid to be too terribly bold because you just don't know what's going to happen on the backside. So I'm looking forward to that. Just for it to be just some guidelines, like I said earlier about court cases. Just tell us what the rules are, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Totally. Maribeth, any thoughts on that?
I mean, I have no idea what the future of NIL is going to be. I'm just rolling with how it's going. And I just want my priority is to make sure that the student athletes at Oklahoma State are really getting what they need in terms of the education, the support, and those kinds of things. And we'll just keep rolling with whatever happens. But I always thought it was good for the student athletes. I don't know how good it is for recruiting, but we're hoping that that those things will come together.
And that's, you hit on the right topic. All we can do, all any of us in athletics can do, is try to take care of our own house and our own kids, and that's the bottom line. And then we'll just roll with it, whichever way it goes.
Exactly. It's a crazy world we live in, and NIL is an exciting topic.
Yeah, James' point there that you had transfer portal and NIL. It is a brave new crazy world, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome. Well, we just have a couple more minutes. So is there anything that I may have missed or that we didn't cover that we just need to finish off with at all? I'll let you guys let me know that. If not, it seems like everyone's pretty much slowing down. We really appreciate everyone being here. This is an awesome topic. Hopefully we can get another one of these types of webinars on the calendar for you all. And we really appreciate it. There's several links in the chat. We'll also be sending you an email out within the next day or two with basically a recap of this event. All the links and resources provided that have been in here will be provided in the email as well. So
Kevin and Maribeth,
thank you.
Kevin and Maribeth and Oklahoma State, thank you guys for the time you've taken and for all you're doing and leading the way.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your day.
See you at softball, Kevin.